Don't turn it off.
How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing well. And yourself?
We're
Very
doing
well, thank you.
Awesome.
Joe, welcome to Miller's Ale House. Tell me about how traffic is on Long Island. Do you absolutely love or hate traffic on
I love
Long
traffic
Island?
on Long Island.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
I love sitting in traffic on the LIE, on Northern State, watching everybody going at 2 miles per hour, and then getting to the front of the traffic jam and realizing there was no accident, there was no construction. It's just a gaggle of cars deciding, you know what? Let's slow down. It's 3:30. You got nothing better to do. Let's just slow it down for everybody else. I love it. I couldn't live anywhere else. Long Island traffic. I love it.
Okay. And do you, my dear?
Thank you for saying that you love it, Sid, because I'll take the opposing viewpoint. I hate it. I'm in sales. I'm in my car a lot of hours every day, and I spend a lot of time sitting in traffic. And other than listening to the fan, there's nothing for me to really like about it, to be honest with you.
Mike, what's your first sports memory growing up?
My first sports memory is probably my dad taking me to Yankee Stadium to see, I believe it was, I know I'm going to date myself here, it was probably the last year that Mantle was on the team. And even though he was old, and even though he was a shell of what he had been, he was still Mantle, and he still had that name. And as a kid, 6, 7 years old, all I knew was the name Mickey Mantle, and I was going to Yankee Stadium, and I was going to see Mickey Mantle, and that's all that mattered to me.
All right, how about Sid? How about growing up? Is there a ball player in any sport that you wanted to be?
Darryl Strawberry. I was 6, 7 years old watching Darryl, and seemingly every childhood memory of watching a Darryl Strawberry at bat was a home run. There was something magical about watching that 86, 87 team with Darryl, with Kevin McReynolds, Dwight Gooden. There is something very, I don't know, mythical in a sense about that team. And just every time you saw them, every time you reminisce about them, it's a very special feeling. But Darryl Strawberry all the way when it comes to, really, if you were to say my favorite player of all time on the Mets, Darryl.
All right, Mike, who got you interested in sports as a youngster?
Probably my dad and my older brother. My brother was a Met fan, so I think probably just to be different than he was, my team was the Yankees. But then when I started learning about it and started reading about the history of the game, the history of the Yankee franchise really appealed to me, and I made an attempt to learn all I could about Ruth and DiMaggio and Gehrig and all those guys. So my dad and my older brother, I would say.
Sid is trying to actually text while performing here. That's the first person we've seen do that.
Imagine that.
Very impressive.
Ordering my fans right now.
Who is your sports influence as a kid?
As a kid, I was a big Islander fan growing up. When I guess my first sports memory, when I was about 3, 4 years old, that was when the Islanders were wrapping up with their dynasty, and just to watch them, that got me into playing hockey. Watching Team USA, '84, that got me into playing hockey. So those two really combined, and it was the time when hockey was really popular on Long Island for those reasons. The fact that the Islanders were a dynasty, the fact that Team USA was Team USA coming off their glory of 1980. So, I mean, in a sense, that was really what got me into sports, just the whole concept of believing.
All right, let's go. Let's hear from you guys. Sid, you're up first.
I sure am.
2 minutes, clock is right there, and let's hear from you.
All right, so by now we've all seen the replay from last night, the egregious call by Jerry Meals that ended the Pirates-Braves game in the 19th inning. And again, it raises the question, why does baseball, what's holding baseball back from expanding replay? We live in a technological era right now with HD, where a blown call is going to not only be exposed, but it's going to be on the Twitter sphere within minutes. I'm not advocating for full replay in baseball, but I'm also tired of the same couple of reasons that are always brought up when we have this conversation. First thing, well, if we expand instant replay, it's going to lengthen the game. All right. Baseball takes about 2.5 to 3 hours. You have batters stepping out of the box, taking 10 seconds to ponder life before they walk back into the box to take the next pitch. Taking 2, maybe 3 minutes once or twice a game isn't going to ruin anybody's sleep patterns. The second, that it's going to take away the human element of the game, that it's going to somehow taint the all-American pastime. I've never understood that argument, but when you think about baseball, you're talking about a sport that's implemented the wild card, has raised and lowered the pitching mound, has basically suggested radical realignment, and oh, by the way, you have video review for disputed home run calls. So you're looking at a situation where baseball is resisting change, is resisting advancing. You have technology now. You have the option to change. But furthermore, you have umpiring controversies, and fans are starting to lose credibility in the sport. Baseball needs to listen to its fans, needs to use the resources available, and do what's right for the advancement of the game.
All right, so you say you don't endorse full instant replay. What would be your best case scenario for replay?
Well, to start, I mean, you look at a sport like cricket, for instance. They have a third umpire. They have essentially what is a booth umpire. There's no reason for bases on plays, a bang-bang play on the bases, that the umpires, again, Ralph mentioned it, 19 innings last night, the umpires aren't going to be as sharp as they were in the first inning. Why not signal to a third umpire? That was a situation where you have a team in contention for the playoffs, and now because of a blown call, if they miss out by one game, it's going to be because of that.
Let's talk a little football right now. Who's going to have a better season, the Jets or the Giants, and why?
I think the Jets are primed to have a better season. Again, I think it was huge that they did sign Santonio Holmes. When you look at the development of Mark Sanchez, he needs an offense, and he needs that clutch go-to wide receiver. And Santonio Holmes brings really what you couldn't find in the free agent market. You have a game changer. You have a route runner. You have someone that brings toughness, someone who brings yards after the catch, and someone who brings leadership qualities. So you have that he shores up the offense. Defense, I don't agree necessarily with Nnamdi Asomugha only because they have other needs. Fine, you get the 2 best cornerbacks in the league. You still have those intermediate routes. Jim Leonard goes down last year, and New England picked them apart in the intermediary. I think the Jets have what it takes right now as far as a defense, as far as a defensive philosophy. I think they've learned from the last 2 appearances in the championships. I think they're going to go. I think this is the year. I think this is finally the year the Rex gets over the hump. Giants are a question mark. You don't know what they're going to get in their wide receiving core. You don't know what you're getting out of Steve Smith. Ramses Barton, you don't know if he's ready to step up. Mario Manningham, is he ready to take more of a lead? Hakeem Nicks, is he ready to be a number 1? And what, if any, role does Plaxico Burress figures to be part of that Giants offense?
You're an Islander fan. You said you were an Islander fan at some point. Does it matter if they lose the team here on Long Island?
It will be tragic if Long Island loses the Islanders.
Does it matter?
For the NHL or for the Islanders?
For everybody.
It does, absolutely, because you're talking about a franchise that at one point was a dynasty and brought glory not only to the NHL, but again, to Long Island. So it would matter. You're talking about a franchise that's rich with history, and more importantly, you're talking about a franchise that now is on its way up. You look at a player like John Tavares, you look at a player like Matt Molson. This is a team that's on the rise, a team on the cusp of doing something, maybe 1 or 2 free agents away from becoming a big-time contender. But again, as far as Long Island is concerned, as far as the presence of hockey on Long Island and here in New York, it would be a huge loss.
All right, Sid, thank you very much. Mike, you're up next, and you are on the clock.
The Trezza Man with you on the Fan, live from Miller's Ale House. And football is back, guys. And no sooner is football back than Rex Ryan is back at it again, trying to sell people this ridiculous idea that somehow the Jets have gone past the New York Giants in terms of relevance, in terms of importance in this tri-state area. Comical, just comical. Now, I will say that 2 years ago, the Jets were a nice story. Rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, came out of nowhere, made the playoffs, won a couple playoff games on the road. All very exciting, very impressive. However, if you're Rex Ryan, you cannot spend all year last year talking about Super Bowl. And then when your team, let's be honest, does not show up for a championship game in Pittsburgh, want to stand around and talk about Final Fours. Hey, Rex, you're not Mike Krzyzewski, okay? You're not Jim Calhoun. This is the NFL. No one cares about Final Fours. You want to hear about relevant? Let me tell you about relevant. New York Giants, 4-0 in NFC Championship games, 3-1 in Super Bowls, 7-1 in championship football games over the last 25 years. That, to me, makes you relevant in a way that no TV show or funny press conference possibly can. So you want to be big brother in this town, Rex? Then you go win yourself a Super Bowl or two, or at the very least, get to one. And until you can do that, zip it about the New York Giants, because you sound like a fool. 877-337-6666. Taking your football calls after the break.
All right, so you mentioned the fact that you think the Giants are more relevant based on the history. How about what's going to take place on the field this year? Who's a better team and why?
I actually think that the Jets are probably going to take a little bit of a step back. It's very, very difficult to get to a championship game 3 years in a row. I'm not saying that they can't do it or that they won't do it. I just think it's very, very difficult, especially in the division that they're in. You know Belichick is not going to let Rex come up there and stick it to him in the playoffs again this year. I'd be very surprised if that happened. And I really think the Giants are going to take a step forward this year. I think both teams are going to be comparable in terms of on-the-field performance this year.
Let's move over to baseball, and let's talk about the Yankees. You think they'll make any moves before the trading deadline?
That's a great question, Mark. I'd love to see them get another starter before the trading deadline. I said this in my first rant. Sabathia is great. I love him. I wish he could pitch every day. But you really don't have a legitimate number 2 starter. Burnett is not a number 2 starter. I'm sorry, he's just not. Cologne, I'm not sure he's going to stay healthy and keep performing at the level he has. Who's your number 2 starter? Is it Phil Hughes, the guy who spent half the season on the disabled list because he couldn't get his fastball over 87 miles an hour? Is it Freddie Garcia? I really would like to see them get a legitimate number 2. I realize that's going to be hard to do, but if you have to give up some good prospects in order to do it, I say do it.
Who's your number 1 choice for them to get?
That's a good question. I'd like to see them get the kid Jimenez. I really think that that he still has a lot of upside. I hear that it's not working out with him in Colorado. Colorado's dropped out of the race, so he's the guy that right now I'd be setting my sights on, and I hope they can pull the trigger on it.
What does it mean to the Mets now that Beltran is gone? Are they still in contention? Do they have enough heart and soul with the other kids on the team?
No, they're not in contention. I do like the fact that I think that they have shown a lot of heart this year. I do like some of the young kids they have. Turner has impressed me quite a bit. I think Murphy is a very, very good stick. A couple other guys, a couple of the young pitchers I think have been great. Neese has been great. Dylan G has been fine. So I think what it sends a very clear signal to the Met fans that, hey, listen, we're going in a new direction here, that we need to get younger, we need to get rid of some of these big salaries and free up some payroll space so that in the offseason, hopefully we can sign some guys that'll put us back in contention next year.
All right, thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.